Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. In an effort to procrastinate more and not clean my garage, I'm going to just start another project. So when I did my video on how to fit 35-inch tires with a 2-inch lift, I didn't have the rear end built out the way I do now. So following video was my drawers, added a fridge, stuff like that, which weighed the rear down. So now that I have drawers built out with a fridge, even just unloaded in daily driving conditions, the rear end sits a lot lower than it did prior to that. I am trying to build in a way that's optimum for when I'm loaded up to go camping, which means I'll probably have another couple 100 pounds in by the time I have my son, my dogs, just loaded up with gear. Just a reminder of what I have. It's a 2-inch Old Man Emu lift. The rear springs are the 2862s, which is a 2-inch lift, but it's a progressive spring. They do make the 2865, which is about the same weight rating, but it's a linear spring, so the same stiffness throughout. With the 2862s being a progressive coil, it does compress those top coils sooner with just a little bit of weight there than the 2865s. Me knowing that I want to add a rear bumper, I know I'm going to add some more weight. So I ended up getting the 2860s, which I believe is a 3-inch lift for a heavier load. So it probably will sit a little high when I go to put these on, which is okay. They will settle a little bit. Plus when I go to add a rear bumper or tire carrier, it should sit exactly where I want it to. So that is part one of this, as well as doing the Eimkeith Panhard Correction Kit. PCK is his initials for it. So I do notice with even the 2-inch lift that the rear end does want to kind of wander a little bit. I am constantly just fighting with the wheel just to kind of get it to go straight. When it's unloaded. When I load it down, it sits down a lot more and the wandering pretty much goes away. It should level it out back to almost stock geometry. So I am putting taller springs on, which will kind of get it past there, but this does raise the Panhard bar about 2.5 inches from what I measured. So even if I do sit 3 inches higher, 3.5 inches higher, it should take a big bulk of that change geometry out of it. If you don't really understand what the Panhard bar does when you lift it and why it does that wandering. So the best of my knowledge with Panhard bar, so you have your frame rails and you have your rear axle. So if you have your link suspension, there's nothing that keeps the axle from wanting to go left or right. So you have a Panhard bar that keeps the axle in line and it kind of follows in a arc position. So as it goes lower, the axle wants to go left or right more. Once you're kind of in this bump zone, that is more vertical. The more you lift without correcting this pivot point, the more you're riding in this little arc here. So now ideally, you want to get that Panhard bar as level as possible. Reason being is if it's more level and you have a little correction kit on there that raises that pivot point up. Now this is the center of your circle where it kind of goes in an arc, and your movement is more in a vertical motion than a left or right, like here as it's lower. So over here it falls more into this lateral movement, making the axle want to go left and right, which even if it's minor, it'll cause the rear end to want to shake left and right a little bit. So right now, if you measure the hub to the underside of the fender, the front is sitting at about 22 inches and the rear is about 22.5. So I'm curious to see where the new springs will sit. I know people on some of the Facebook groups I'm on kind of ask the difference between the two and they want to see how it sits. So I'm going to try to do some measurements just to see where the 2862 falls in relation to the 2860s and how much it raises with just a drawer and a fridge setup. So I'll kind of give it a good measurement indicator of where it sits. Got birds in my shop. All right, so we're going to get to installing. If you or a friend knows how to weld, it's pretty straightforward. The Panhard bar basically unbolts from the stock location. Put this in place of it, weld it around, put it in the new location. Pretty clear. Springs, once you get the Panhard bar off, I think the rear end will actually drop a little lower. So it'll be easier to get this installed while it's all apart and while I'm doing this. I'm not doing an adjustable Panhard bar at the moment. If you do want a good video on that, go to Treehouse Overland. He did do the same bracket as well as did an adjustable Panhard bar to adjust where his axle's located left or right. He did a good build on that. So go check his video out if you want to kind of see how to do that. I'll probably end up doing it, just not this time. So I am going to get the bracket on, new coils, and should be ready to go. As you can see, I do have a lot of rust on here, so I do want to clean that off. Other than that, I'm going to just kind of prep it, bevel the edge of where I have to weld, and then I'll throw some welds on it and kind of paint it up and put it back together. The springs should come out a lot easier with everything disconnected like that. So I will have to get those in as I go to reassemble it. While I am down here, I am going to check all my suspension bolts, make sure everything's torqued. It's good practice if you're kind of down in the area. You might as well just check everything, make sure nothing will fall apart on the trail. Gonna get this cleaned up and then go grab the welder, and should go pretty quick. So those were less than ideal welding conditions. Windy out here. Plus I'm still new to welding, so it'll hold. I try to get the inside too, just to get both sides, just make sure there's good penetration. So I am gonna clean this up, throw some paint on it, and get some coils in here, and get this thing back on its wheels soon. All right. 23 3/4. So about 1.25 inches up. It's exactly where I wanted it. That's pretty much it for this video. Just quick, easy build. I should get back to cleaning the garage. And quick update for anybody that's kind of followed me for any length of time. The Adventurous Mind that I had before was meant to be a outdoor apparel company. I'm really close to launching that. Probably around when this video is posted, I'll have my first products. I'm waiting for some samples to come in the mail. I will link that down below if you want to check that out. Support the brand. I appreciate it. Other than that, I will see you guys on the next one.